Soft power is the ability of a country to influence others in a non-coercive way. This is a word that's been coined by a professor in Harvard, Joseph Nye. And this has to be contrasted with hard power. And hard power is typically your military might or economic might, whereas soft power is the ability to influence without having to spend money or use your military power. Well, our civilizational history is our soft power. Like Saudi Arabia, for example, has oil as a resource, or Australia has a lot of commodities as resource, Indonesia has coal as resource, Singapore has a location as its resource. India's resource is its culture. So the moment you look at culture as a resource that we've been endowed with, a civilizational culture that India has been endowed with, and then leverage that as a resource, then our perspective changes. So our culture is, in fact, Joseph Nye's definition of soft power, the three legs of soft power are culture, democratic values, and its foreign policy. So culture is an important part of soft power, and we have endowed our civilizational history and culture. I think the first initiative has come through the International Yoga Day, which more than 180 countries passed resolution. And now the narrative in India has started, and thanks to the initiative of this government under Mr. Narendra Modi, the concept of soft power and leveraging soft power has become a focus area for the ministry. Well, we have set up a center for soft power in Chennai, and our initiatives is to look at, like I said, to leverage soft power as a resource and as a means for economic prosperity. So our focus is not so much like looking at performances, looking at those aspects, but looking at the back end and looking at the economic value chain behind a cultural experience. So our entire thing is how does our soft power create jobs? How does it lead to economic growth in India? That's the question we are looking at. And one is, of course, we looking at analyzing what our strengths are, then advocating policy changes so that there are initiatives in that direction, and finally creating awareness amongst the people about what we can do. So from an awareness point of view, we have recently done a conference on soft power where more than 60 speakers from 15 countries have come. We had a lot of sessions, and we also did one more conference in Singapore, India through its thoughts and senses. And now we are planning a series of events across so we're planning an event in Japan, in Australia, in America, so a series of events to create awareness on soft power. More importantly, within India, we are looking at, from an economic point of view, we're looking at creating a trade body called NICE, Network of Indian Cultural Enterprises. So this is going to be a trade body, it's a global trade body consisting of all enterprises around the world who are in some way involved in marketing or in offering our culture as a service or a product as members. So this would be a first of its kind initiative that we are incubating. This center is incubating this company. It's a trade body. Just like the software sector grew through NASSCOM, when NASSCOM came in the 90s, and then NASSCOM played a very crucial role in interface between the government and the companies involved in the software. We want to be that intermediary. We do have trade bodies like FICCI and CII and SHM, but this is a very vertical focused on culture. So this will have, like if you are a restaurant in Vienna, you can be a member in this. So any company which is involved in culture, both in India and outside India, would be members. The way we are looking at our culture is we break it into different verticals. So we have spirituality, we have cuisine, we have yoga, we have Ayurveda, we have literature, we have language, we have films, we have music, design, craft, textiles. So these are all different verticals that we look at. So within these verticals, we look at, again, experts in each of these verticals and identify what are the issues these players in these industries are facing, and then try to create that interface between the government and the trade players, so that, you know, for example, cooks are not getting visas in UK, for example. So then what do, right? So therefore we interact with the UK government and see how we can get the visas. So there's an intervention that's required. So like that, you have several issues that the individual smaller enterprises would be facing. So we are looking at creating this trade body called NICE. So that would be the initiative. Apart from that, I must tell you that globally there are certain trends that we must notice. The way I look at how millennials are consuming and what's happening around the world, I break it into 4 C's. So one is, tourism is very big, but tourism is no longer about visiting a place or, you know, a beach or something like that. Every tourism experience is overlaid with an intellectual experience and emotional experience. So curated cultural experiences is a big trend, and India offers the maximum number of cultural experiences. There's no other country which can beat the sheer range of cultural experiences that our country can offer. This is a big trend. So that's then care, like Ayurveda, healthcare. This is a big care and sustainability is a big trend, and that is something which we have a lot to offer. Craft and sustainability is again a big trend. Conscious consumption, people call it as conscious consumption. So people don't want, there's a pushback against these large companies. So people want to consume something so that they can make a difference to somebody else's life somewhere else on the planet. So again, India is the sort of a mecca of craft and design, and we have a huge potential to exploit that. And finally, consciousness is the other thing that we have, that when I say consciousness, I mean spirituality and yoga. So globally, you know what's happening. Spiritual but not religious is the biggest religion today. That if you look at Pew Research or look at any other, Buddhism also is a growing religion. Buddhism is growing because of the spiritual aspects of Buddhism. And so it's a very big trend that people are consuming our spirituality, and therefore 4 C's like care, craft, consciousness and curated cultural experience. These 4 C's would form the sort of the 4 pillars of what we are trying to do. And the economic potential and the economic aspects of our culture would be coming out from these 4 C's. There is a company which does ranking called Portland Communications. They do a soft power 30. You can debate on the kind of ranking and the parameters they use, but there's a index out there called the soft power 30. India is not amongst the top 30, even though world is actually consuming Indian culture, but India is not featured because they are not crediting us. So I think if we take a concerted action, then we will be recognized. We should be in the top 3 by 2030. That's the goal. Yeah, we can be the top 3.